Oh, there we go. Well, it did that. It says we're live, but then it says this video restriction thing.
I'll see if it comes up here.
Okay. Should I, let's see, do I need to do anything on the Zoom side?
No, I mean, you didn't change any settings, right?
Nope.
Oh, we're live.
We're live. Okay. All right. I'm going to go back to Zoom now.
I'll see if it comes
I'm
up.
going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to admit Mr. Gordon Barrett, and then I'm going to start recording the meeting.
So we are live right now, right?
Yes, sir.
We are live.
Okay, live from SoCal. It is Wednesday Night Live. Welcome to the board meeting. Hello, everybody. First of all, I'm going to have Principal Platt introduce our pledge leader for tonight.
Thank you. I am really honored to actually introduce Martin Garcia. He's been at Main Street his entire career. He's a fifth grader, I believe, in this Lowe's class now. And he is going to lead us in the pledge and the district mission statement. So Martin, take it away.
Thank you. Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and for the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Staff, students, parents, and the community share the responsibility for each child's success. We are committed to ensuring that each student develops the skills and the confidence for lifelong achievement and is prepared to make a positive contribution to our world.
We get to
Way
hear
to
a little
go,
bit about
Martin.
Martine.
Sure. Yeah.
I think your principal is going to read a little bit about your, perhaps President Donnelly.
Yes, President Donnelly's going to read about Martin, and maybe if there's any questions from the board.
Excellent.
Okay, so Martine, I have this great little certificate for you, and I'm sure you'll get it eventually, but I will read it to you. Martine Cruz is an outstanding person. Not only is he dedicated and hardworking student, he is compassionate, empathetic, and articulate. Martine is the kind of student every teacher dreams of teaching. He is eager to grow and learn more about every subject. He thinks critically about new information and always up for the challenge. Beyond his academic achievements, he is a dedicated and talented swimmer. He has been swimming in the ocean when the pools are not available. Ask any teacher at Main Street who has the pleasure of working with Martine. They will tell you he has it all. He is the perfect person to represent our school at tonight's board meeting. And Martine, thank you. Boy, that is one fine piece there. I hope my mic was on the whole time.
Yeah.
So Martine,
Yeah.
so where do you ocean swim?
Well, at Cowell's and Capitola too.
You know, I'm an old ocean swimmer myself. I used to do races and trained out at Cowell's. And that's an interesting spot to train with. Do you ever run into seals or any other living beings in the ocean?
Yeah, we saw a seal once.
There we go. And I see is that a piano behind you?
Yeah,
Do you play that?
I play.
Oh, forgot to mention that. Cool, that's great. So I'm going to have other board members ask you some questions as well.
Okay.
Fire away, gentlemen and ladies. Sorry.
I'll go ahead. Hi, Martine. Well
Hi.
done. Well done and everything. It seems like you had memorized the mission statement. So congratulations on that. That's not.
Thank you. Yeah.
Tell me, what's your favorite subject in school?
I think my favorite's reading.
Nice.
What's something you're enjoying with school right now?
Do you mean like Zoom school? Like, yeah.
Anything related to how school is right now?
Well, I think it's a lot better than last year because we're actually like there all the time with the teachers.
Mm-hmm. That's good to hear. Thank you for the feedback.
Hmm?
Hi, Martine.
Hi.
Since you said you have any book recommendations, my son just started 2nd grade, and wait, is it third? It's 3rd grade.
It's 3rd grade, Amanda.
It's 3rd
Oh,
grade.
that's good. Oh, that's good.
This has been the longest year ever. 3rd grade. We're looking for book recommendations because we finished the Harry Potter series, and it's just been a little bit hard getting into something else. Do you have any suggestions? Anything you really like?
Yeah, my favorite book series is this. It's a fantasy book called The Unwanteds. It's like it has like Harry Potter magic and some other stuff. So, yeah,
And it's a series, so if you get into it, there's I
it's
like
pretty
it.
long,
The
yeah.
Unwanted. I'm going to write that down. Thank you.
So quick question, sci-fi or fantasy?
Fantasy. I like fantasy.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, Martine, thank you for coming tonight. Oh, and did I hear a dog in the background too?
No,
It's just mom and other brother.
Oh, I thought I heard something. Okay, maybe it was my dog here too.
It's an
So.
older shouting brother. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for hopping in and doing the pledge. And it's been fun talking to you. Now we got to go on to the board meeting, so you could stick around, listen, or you could do your homework too. A lot of action here tonight.
Bye.
Thank you, Martine.
Bye, Martine.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Principal
you.
Platt. Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Rob.
Wow, that was great. Linda, can you do a roll call?
Of course. Trustee Rodriguez. Trustee Jackson Miller.
Here.
Trustee Izant Gonzalez.
Here.
Trustee Friedman.
Present.
Trustee Donley.
It is me and not a mannequin.
And
Okay.
Phil,
Thank you.
and Phil is here.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as it stands?
I'll make the motion. Carolyn?
Carolyn, a second?
I'll second it. Amanda.
Amanda seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Okay. Consent agenda. Since there is a resolution, we are going to do a roll call on this. So is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as it stands?
I'll make the
Jen,
motion. Oh, Jen got it. I'll second. Amanda.
Jen with the Hollywood Squares went first, and then Amanda with the Hollywood Squares went second. There we go. Okay. All in favor? Oh, wait, we got to do a roll call because there is a resolution. Mike, Linda. Oh, there
By
you go.
roll call, Trustee Rodriguez.
Aye.
Trustee Jackson Miller. Aye. Trustee Izant Gonzalez.
Yes.
Trustee Friedman.
Aye.
Trustee Donley.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, public communications. Do we have any public communications, Superintendent Turnbull or Linda? Your mics are off.
None that I'm aware of.
Okay.
None that
very
I'm
good.
aware of.
And
All right.
throughout the meeting, we'll be monitoring both the public comment email and public comment text lines.
All right. Okay, we're gonna go standing reports. Let's go with our assistant superintendents first. I think we start with Michelle when we're at the table. It's been a while.
So, good evening, everyone. Sorry I had to miss the last meeting due to a little bit of an evacuation, but I'm back now. Seems a month ago was so long, and everything that we've been doing and everything has changed so much. One of the main things in business we've been focusing on is just the start of the year and getting everything up and running as we normally would. And we've been doing some big supply bags that have been going out to the kids. And so that's been a pretty big undertaking for us in business, as well as on the tech side. George has been working on, we've ordered 640 new Chromebooks to be delivered and about 50 new laptops. And so we're continuing on and with our learning loss mitigation funding to help continue on with our replacement plan that we thought we might have to put on hold, which now we don't have to. That's good news. Let's see, we've been serving meals. It was just announced that they passed the waiver through December 31st. So now we can serve all kids anywhere, anytime. So Kathy and I are going to be working on revising our meal schedule so that we can offer back at Emerald Bay again and do some alternative times. So that's really, really good news for us right now. And our final year audit had to be postponed because I was unavailable. And so we're getting back on the schedule. So hopefully for our next meeting, I'll have an update for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Jessica, there you are, over there, not Hollywood Square.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. Some of the things that I'm working on right now with my teams are to make sure that we have curriculum in the hands of teachers and kids, some new and some existing, which has been really exciting to kind of be a participant in. Lots of our virtual platforms we're doing some training with, which is exciting as well. I'm also working with our leadership team on volume 2 of our multi-phase distance learning plan. It has an entire new look. It's got new content. It's pretty exciting and ready for an unveiling. We've been working on the learning continuity and attendance plan, which you're going to see a little bit later tonight on the agenda as a open public hearing item and a first read for you. We've also been working on student engagement, participation, and re-engagement protocols that were established under Senate Bill 98, which has been a little bit more complicated than we anticipated, but our teams are great and we've got a good plan in place. And I think the last exciting thing that I've been working on, I think there's maybe more than one more that I'll mention tonight, and that's really been enhancing our Opal Cliffs home-based learning program with our 2 teachers that are working so diligently with families on creating individualized learning plans for over 50 children. So that's been really exciting to be engaging with these families and these teachers. So those are my big updates for tonight.
Thank you very much. And Scott. Sure.
Much of mine will be covered in items on the agenda tonight, but I will just say that I'm so happy that the CZU Lightning Complex fire is gaining higher and higher levels of containment, and that our impacted families are, at least some of them, able to have their evacuation orders lifted, and just so grateful for firefighters and everybody that put their own lives on the line to help the community. And especially here in our own little local community on our screen here, that Michelle is back in her house. So congratulations, Michelle, on that. And the only other thing I wanted to say is that our enrollment has been climbing, and we're up to 1,771 in the district, which for everything that's going on right now is heading in the right direction. That's all for me.
Thank you. Do we have anybody from CSEA here tonight?
I do not see anybody from Corey or anybody else from CSEA on there, and I just checked to make sure that I hadn't forgot to admit somebody. I would just like to say on that note that my gratitude for both Corey and CSEA and Gordon and SEA for their continued collaboration on all things related to all the challenges we're going through.
Of course. Okay, let's move on to SEA, and we have Gordon here. Hey, Gordon, how you doing? Thanks for coming.
Thanks for inviting me.
Looking forward to this letter you wrote.
Yeah, very much,
No.
very much appreciated. Is this the right time to read that?
I believe so, Scott.
So Ted, what you had asked, and I'm fine either
Oh.
way, but you had asked that Gordon read it when the action or when the item comes up on the agenda.
Oh, of course I did. Thank you.
Okay, so
Thank you.
yeah,
you know,
we'll
Gordon, I'm
save
sorry.
little
That
bit
is the perfect time to do it. And
No worries.
but anything else to report out on the
Sure.
SEA?
Sure. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me here. Yeah, SEA did meet on Monday. We've been meeting pretty regularly through the summer and through the start of the school year. We also were fortunate to have Scott and Jessica and Michelle on our meeting on Monday as well. Very much appreciated for that. We talked about a few things at our meeting on Monday. We did talk about potential for in-person assessments, and I think Scott was extremely helpful with helping us kind of work through some of those challenges of doing in-person assessments for special education. We had a conversation about racial equity, which is something that I'm committed to keeping on our agenda forever as just a standing agenda item. One of the conversations that we had during that discussion was around Avid. There was kind of a conversation about whether Avid is good, Avid is not good, and then there was opinions on both sides. There was also a conversation about the format of board meetings, about them being streamed live on YouTube instead of Google Meet like you guys were doing previously. And I think the comment from that discussion that stuck with me the most was that one teacher said that it felt less like attending a public forum and more like watching a TV show. And I think that the thought was that, it doesn't feel as much like having your voice and speaking at a meeting when it's an email being read aloud, right? And I think that was sort of the focus of that discussion. And that's all pretty much that we talked about. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So do we have any trustees that need to report out on anything? I'll start off. I have nothing to report out on. Except Michelle, glad you're home. We had some folks staying at our place too, and it is truly a frightening experience. So I'm glad you're home. Any other trustees have anything to report out on it? I'll go with Phil.
Nothing to report.
Okay, I'll work my way down to Jen.
I want to say, Michelle, Scott did a very solid job of your presentation. It wasn't the same, so we're very happy to have you back. And just want to express gratitude to everyone. Got to witness today the pickup at New Brighton Middle School, and that team was just on it with such positive energy. I mean, you saw Corey, you saw Principal Broadhurst, you saw everybody lined up just getting materials out to students, and then me personally, obviously, with my kids, and just so grateful that our teachers are giving it their all and being so flexible during this time, and they are going through so much as well, just like each and every one of us. And so it feels great, and it kind of feels like we're starting the year over again this week, but with some positive energy with the fires starting to die down. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I'll work my way over to Amanda.
Yeah, well stated, Jen. I don't have anything else to add or anything else to report, so thank you.
Amanda just went into a time warp here.
That's weird. Ted's frozen for me.
Yeah, Ted is
I
frozen for
freeze?
me too. Guess I'll go then.
There we go. Amanda, we didn't hear you. You froze there.
I think you're the only one who didn't hear Amanda.
Oh, I didn't.
heard her.
Am I the only one that didn't hear? Okay.
You froze,
thank
and
you.
I only talked about you. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. All right, Carolyn.
I just want to echo what everyone has been saying. Just what a roller coaster for our community and the larger Santa Cruz County community. Michelle, I'm so glad that you're in your home. It's just been challenging times for a lot of people, but it seems like a lot of people have been able to go back home. So I'm really happy about that. And also about the pickups, I went to 2 pickups today for materials, New Brighton and Santa Cruz Gardens. And again, to echo what Jen said, everyone was just so helpful and cheerful, and it just made the experience just really pleasant and streamlined. Everything was really organized. So that's it from me.
Thank you. All right, with that, let's move on to our public hearing 5A. So this is a public hearing regarding learning continuity and attendance. And I'll turn that over to Jessica.
Thank you. So tonight we open our public hearing regarding the learning continuity and attendance plan that I talked a little bit about in my update. This plan was established this year in response to the COVID-19 crisis and the provisions under which were approved by our governor and our legislature under Senate Bill 98. This plan is really intended to balance the needs of all stakeholders while also accounting for the processes that we already had in place and the plans that we had created in past years, including those like the LCAP. This plan is intended to provide an overview and serve as a memorialized document about plans that we already have in place for the 2021 school year that include addressing skill gaps, stakeholder engagement, maintaining transparency, addressing the needs of unduplicated students, students with unique needs, access to technology for all students, addressing social emotional health and well-being, as well as the availability of meal service to students. Before we actually open that public comment, I will note that there were a few minor edits that were suggested and identified. On page 40, the addition of Santa Cruz Gardens in line 1. On page 40, a typo in the word individualized in the last line of the first paragraph. On page 41, an elimination of apostrophe after the word students in the top line. And on page 45, the additional verb of being added to line 2. So those are the identified and suggested edits. So now we are open.
All right, very good. Then I will go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anybody out there, Scott, Linda? Okay.
No, I have a public comment, but on a different item.
Okay. Let's wait for about 5 more seconds, just in case there's a delay here. Okay, very good. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. All right, so let's move on to 6A, our presentation. Discussion regarding racial justice and educational equity. So Scott, oh, come on, Timmy is not in the well, okay? Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Ted. So I was forwarded an email to the Board of Trustees, and it is in relation to racial justice. And so I think for the matter of flow for this item, President Donnelly, you had requested that Gordon read his letter in conjunction with that. So how about if we do this, if this is okay with you, we will have Gordon read his letter, and then I will read this public comment since it's kind of connected to it, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so we're going to go with Gordon.
Yes.
You're on.
Thank you guys, and very much appreciate the opportunity to read this today. I don't want to take all the credit for this letter. This is a conversation Carissa Lemos started when she was SCA president, and then I worked on this letter alongside many very, very skilled teachers. I hope I remember everybody, but Ilana Lowe, Emily Maddox, Rebecca Voigt, Laura Johnson, and I'm sure I am probably forgetting somebody, but I don't have the list in front of me. But I worked on this with several other people, and it was passed unanimously at the SEA meeting on 7/20, and we've you know, after some discussion, but it was passed unanimously. Would you like me to present the letter so that we have a visual, or just read? I could present the screen if you'd like.
Sure, go ahead and present your screen, Gordon. I think that's a great idea.
Oh, host disabled attendee sharing. So never mind.
Oh.
No, it's all good. All right, here we go. So the letter is in support of racial justice. As SEA members, we stand with our colleagues and students of color. We believe that Black lives matter. We believe in SUESD's mission statement, especially when it says we are committed to ensuring that each student develops the skills and confidence for lifelong achievement and is prepared to make a positive contribution to our world. Like any district or school system in this country, we believe that we can and should do better at ensuring that our students of color are able to develop the skills and confidence for lifelong achievement. We'd like to thank the SUESD Board of Trustees for passing a strong resolution supporting Black Lives Matter and committing to educational policies and practices that promote removing the structures of systematic racism and repairing the institutions damaged by racism. We'd also like to express gratitude to district administrators, including Scott Turnbull, for the statements they have made and the work they have done in support of racial justice. At the board meeting on Wednesday, 7/15, there was a discussion regarding the creation of a task force to work towards the goal of racial justice and anti-racism. There was also a public statement read that recommended equity committees being created at all sites. SEA supports the creation of a racial justice task force at the district level, as well as site-specific equity committees. Additionally, we'd like to put forward some recommendations for short-term and long-term ongoing considerations for this task force to consider. So the short-term considerations that we're asking the task force to consider are updating libraries to include and highlight equity, diversity, and inclusion, change visual representations on school campuses to be racially respectful and inclusive, such as mascots and murals, for example, the new Brighton mascot, which is a Viking. Provide more consistent bilingual resources to families, survey families for preferred method of language and communication, and professionally translate printed, emailed, audio resources. Intentionally create heterogeneous classes. And then the subpoints of that are examine clustering of RSP and ELD students, restructure accelerated math courses at all grade levels in order to increase equity, examine academic tracking of middle school students. And then some ongoing considerations we're asking the task force to consider are strengthening the anti-bullying campaign to include anti-racism education, redraw boundaries to increase racial diversity at the elementary schools, examine quantitative data around hiring practices and diversity of SUESD staff and leadership positions, move towards culturally responsive and anti-racist curriculum and teaching practices. And the subpoints of that are developing norms across the district and site-specific to call out anti-racism, professional development curriculum, like looking at personal biases, implicit biases, microaggressions, and continuous personal reflection, examining appropriation versus appreciation, anti-racism curriculum based on racial equity, African-American history beyond the month of February, which is the shortest month, examine how racial inequity is perpetuated in special education, which I have a front row seat as that as a special education teacher, continue the work against injustice of all kinds through the work of this committee and the formation of other committees, and ensure equity of voice among parents and families in the community. We envision that this task force and equity committees be composed of certificated and classified staff, administration, parents, and community members to address racial justice in SUESD. Listed above are some of the issues we'd like to see the committee address. We see this list as a starting point for continuous work we need to prioritize in this district. And we include the quote by Angela Davis that I'm sure you've all heard many times. And in a racist society, it's not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist. And this letter is signed by 50 plus SEA members. It's been sent to you guys. And that's all. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you giving me the platform to speak about this. I know that I don't have a huge amount of power as president of SEA, but think about what I can do personally, as I'm sure you guys have all thought about what you can do personally to solve some of these huge issues we have in this country. And one of the things that I can do is just to continue keeping this item on the agenda for SEA, to continue getting updates from the Racial Justice Task Force, and to continue working with SEA members to make sure that we can solve some of these issues as an organization. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Gordon. You know, you always have a voice too.
Appreciate it.
So thank you for that letter. It's awesome. Thank you very much. Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, I concur with President Donnelly. It was a very powerful letter, and it's very much appreciated. And as I've said before, it's just very exciting to have all parts of our organization highlighting this as the area to focus on for the year. So I'd also like to read an email that was sent to the Board of Trustees. The first part is kind of a technical piece. The second part is related to this. So I'm going to read the whole thing in totality, just so it's all addressed. It says, I've been trying to log into the board meeting using the link that was on the board meeting agenda for tonight. I'm getting a message that the meeting is restricted, and I've not been able to figure out another way that works. So just to address that first part, I have simultaneously reached out to our tech coordinator, and he has multiple accounts going, including non-logged in ones, incognito accounts, and he is getting a stream. So that's not to say that that doesn't invalidate what this person is saying, but I just let you know that we are testing it and wanting to make sure everybody who wants access can have access. So but it seems like things are working, but we hopefully will be able to address why that person's not able to view the meeting. So the next part of the email is more pertinent to this matter. It says, I wanted to be there to support SCA President Gordon Barrett's presentation on the letter on racial justice from SCA. I also would have liked to hear the board discussion on that topic. Despite my frustration tonight, I applaud Superintendent Turnbull for his goal of making racial equity and justice a focus for this school year. Well, so many of us are on overload of stress, it is important that we not drop this ball as we juggle so many others. I encourage the board to do its part in putting into action on the resolution you passed unanimously earlier this year. Some more eloquent and powerful support. So with that said, we have our standing item now, and just to kind of build on what we've done so far, the board has passed a resolution. The board has done some reading on the matter and initial discussions. The board approved a contract with consultant group Nicole Anderson and Associates. And I'll have a little bit of information to share about that. And as we get this ball rolling, the next step is getting the task force fully seated. So we have a 20-member task force. The last group that we're bringing on board is the parent representation on that committee. So we have SEA and CSEA representation, elementary and middle school representation. The members identified, and board representation, I should say. The members identified so far are Carolyn Friedman from the board, a shared seat, being Brown Act mindful, a shared seat because of their schedules between Amanda Jackson Miller and Jennifer Izant Gonzalez, meaning only one of them will sit at a particular meeting. So there's only 2 board members at a particular meeting, but they can alternate. Michelle Jesberg, the New Brighton librarian representing CSEA, Annie Dungan, behavior intervention assistant at SoCal-L, also representing CSEA, a shared seat between Carlo Albano and Monica Nadi from Santa Cruz Gardens, SEA representation. Emily Maddox, New Brighton teacher, Erica Marquez, New Brighton teacher, Heather Springy, Main Street teacher, Rebecca Voigt, SoCal-L teacher, Barbara Hubner, ELD teacher on special assignment, Sandy Figueroa, easy for me to say, personnel coordinator, and Ronnie Platt, principal at Main Street. So the idea with these teams is always to make them as tight as possible so that they don't become unwieldy, yet at the same time try to make them as representative from a cross section of the district as possible. We'll be bringing on 2 parents from each site as well, rounding out a 20-member task force to work with Nicole. In addition, kind of working on 3 tracks: the task force, the board, and our administrative team. Nicole, we have scheduled meetings with Nicole for our board of trustees and our governance team on October 14th to be able to have an initial meeting with Nicole. And also with our administrative council, ADCO, we'll be meeting with her on October 6th. So there's 3 tracks involved in this. And of course, the idea with these 3 tracks is that it matriculates the information across the whole system. But these are the 3 tracks that will be working directly with Nicole and her team as we all seek to learn, improve, get uncomfortable, and continuously improve. So that's the action that's been taken thus far, and I'll open it up now to the board for questions and discussion.
All right, board members, anybody have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Gordon, for coming, and please thank your colleagues for, kind of putting a narrative on something that we've been talking about. So it's good to have a thing to touch and feel and see. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk during this, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else ready to go?
I'll hop in. Thank you, Gordon, very much, and to you and the colleagues for writing. And there were so many names, so many signers on that letter. It was a really beautiful thing to see. And knowing not just, of course, that the SEA members support the endeavors, but then that you take the time to give us this incredibly comprehensive to-do list, things that we all should be thinking about and considering. It was just very, very thoughtful and insightful. We all, have our area that we might have more awareness of, within the district and our own community, and really being able to see that wide representation of areas to focus on was really insightful and very, very helpful. So thank you to you and your colleagues. Really, really looking forward on us all working together on this project that will be just continuous, as you said, an ongoing standing agenda item. Scott, I had a little question. We talked about our libraries and bringing in more books with more sensitivity, diversity, et cetera. I'm wondering if there's something that we can do as well during the online learning with Epic Books or whatever the programs kids are using now during distance learning. Anything to particularly highlight these digital libraries as well in this area.
Absolutely, we can do that. Yes.
Good, thank you. Any other members? Jen, Carolyn?
Well, I just want to thank Gordon and your colleagues as well for the letter. Just seems like you just put so much time into it, so much thought into it, and it just covers so many really important things that we need to focus on. So thank you for that, and thank you, Scott, for just building on the momentum and making it happen and making the task force happen. I'm really excited to be part of it. That's it for me.
Thank you. Jen.
Echo everything, and I'm appreciate you being here today. It's really was great that you were able to read it on behalf of your colleagues, and so thank you for taking the time. I know it's after 7 o'clock and you had a busy day, but thank you.
Yes, Gordon, thank you. And thank you for coming here and reading it. It's, I really preferred you reading it. And then I'd like to see our resolution on the website, if we could put it on there. I was looking at the website. I know I don't want to clutter it up, but I think it's something important that we could at least put on our website, our resolution for the equity as well.
Yes, we'll make sure that happens. One of our key webmasters happens to be on the meet, so he's getting it firsthand.
Perfect. And Gordon, your letter will be in the minutes as well. So it will be public information. I have shared it with especially my daughter in Southern California, who is a teacher, and she loved it very much, and with others. So thank you for presenting that and reading that too as well.
Thank you guys all so much, very much. It was absolutely an honor and a privilege to be able to read it. And please, by all means, share it as far and wide as you'd like.
Awesomeness. All right. With that, let's move on to 6B, which is a discussion regarding COVID-19 distance learning and the CZU lightning complex fires.
Thank you, Ted. So majority of this will focus on the fire and impact to our district and county, but just obviously in relation and in addition to the challenges that our world and district were already going through with COVID-19 and having to close schools and be on distance learning and the roller coaster of a summer. The impact of the fire, while we didn't feel it nearly as directly as some of our neighboring districts, such as San Lorenzo Valley, Bonnie, Dune, and Pacific, just to name three. And I'd just like to offer them those whole communities our thoughts as they deal with the much more direct impact of the fire. For us, it was a very heavy impact, if not as direct as those districts, with about 20% of our staff members being evacuated from their homes. And then I included the text of an email that I received from a teacher in our district prior to making that decision to close schools last week. Because I thought the context of the email represented some other informal conversations that I had and kind of captured it all nicely in writing about that it's not just the 20% who are evacuated, but that there's a compound effect of, if you're not directly evacuated, you may be housing somebody who's evacuated, and just the ongoing dominoes of an already very tense situation, very challenging situation with the pandemic, with distance learning. And also not having a hearty subpool ready and prepared to do distance learning quite yet. That was all the rationale that went in to making the decision to hit the pause button last week, August 24th to 28th for our district, as most other neighboring districts did in our county. And so obviously, since then, as I mentioned earlier, we all watch the news and we all know that there's, our amazing firefighters and first responders have done an amazing job on getting a handle on the fire, and families are now starting to start the recovery process. So we're back at it, as somebody had said earlier, almost like a restart to the school year. Just another challenge that we're handling together though. And we'll come out even stronger on the other side. So with that, I guess the last thing I'd like to say before opening it up for board questions and discussion is that we will go through the J13A process and hope that the state approves that based on the impact to our district, and also based on the fact that we are getting County of Office of Education and County Public Health letters of support for that J13A, which I think will strengthen our waiver request so that we do not have to make up those 5 days of instruction and do not get penalized financially for it. And I will, of course, keep the board abreast on how that process goes. With that, I'll open it up for discussion and comment.
Okay, I'll let you guys jump in. All right, thanks, Scott. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. We had some evacuees here, and then as far as well as after Paradise, their fire that happened there, we had a board member as a guest here, and how they explained everything that went on. It's just, they didn't say fire, they said incinerate. And it's, we have, there's so much going on in our community right now, not only the pandemic, but then, the fire, and then affecting our members of our school district and as the community as well. I'm not sure how I'm going to put a closure on the statement, but that's kind of how I'm feeling. Anybody else?
I think I've said something similar in the past, but I think kind of piggyboarding onto that, Ted, it's right. It's we have so many layers here with the recent tragedy of the fires and all that entails, a pandemic, the traumas and challenges associated with distance learning, the traumas associated with all of the the systemic racism and all of the acts of violence related to racism in our country that's importantly being discussed, but it's also something that some kids may be getting a heightened awareness of or experience around those things. So I think I've said it before, but I'll keep saying it makes me incredibly grateful for our focus on social emotional learning and the dedication that our district and our staff have towards incorporating that into even the digital classroom, and the incredible importance of us all knowing how to have the right, the conversations with our kids and having safe classroom space, even in the digital world, for our kids to be able to process everything that's going on around us. So thank you, Scott, for the update. I certainly hope the waiver is granted, and I'm sure I have questions, but they're questions that you can't answer yet because I always want to know when, right? I know you'll tell us, so thank you.
I do have a question. Now, I mean, learning is virtual now, but our district or any other districts are going to be bringing kids in from the mountain schools for virtual learning.
So all of the districts in the county have offered that sort of support to the most directly impacted districts. I think right now they're in that stage of just trying to get a footing and get some sense of normalcy back. As they come back through Dr. Sabat, the County Office of Education, and all the other superintendents, including myself, we have offered anything that we have available, and up and through, if a teacher needs a classroom to distance teach from, we will provide that. If we can absorb students into a distance learning classroom, we will do that with all intentions of, once they get back up and running, having that student return to their district. I think it's too early to know exactly what they want right now, was kind of the sense of it. Right now, it's just kind of trying to get a handle on life. But they know that whatever they need, the rest of the county will be ready to provide it.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Phil, go ahead.
Amanda was talking about SEL, and out there in the adult world, it's called soft skills. And so this one is adversity. And all I can tell you, staff, is everything was fine until we had the power shutoffs last year. Then it's COVID, and now it's the fire. And guess what? We're back in the power shutoff thing. So as far as the adversity threshold goes, I think we've met that. And so let's have no more. So Scott, call somebody and tell them enough.
I'll make that call ASAP.
Which superhero? Okay. You guys just jump in, give you a few seconds. Anybody else? All right.
Ted, if I could just say something, I know normally we don't, but just on behalf of myself personally, who was affected by this, I can't thank the district enough for how kind everyone has been, and all of our employees just coming together for all of our families. And it's such a scary thing to go through that. And I got really, really lucky. I got to come back to my home tonight after 2 weeks. So someone who's been directly affected, I could never think of working for another district that the kindness of everyone through this last week has been so wonderful. So just a personal thank you to the board and to Scott and all of our employees.
Of course, Michelle, you know, it takes a community. You know, we're a community here. That's what's great about our district. And that's why I'm happy to serve as a board member here, because we are a community. Okay, Kleenex, please. I will move on if there's nothing more here. There's always a lot more here, though. Hate to put it. But anyways, let's move on to 6C. Let's have a discussion regarding our new board policy. What is it? COVID-19 mitigation plan. And Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Ted. And this one really kind of follows nicely in line with a lot of what we've talked about. And it's one of those examples of code catching up to practice, right? So this codifies or has presents a first reading of a policy that would codify a lot of the things that we lived the last several months. And this is a CSBA sample policy, new policy, obviously. And I guess without going over every part of the document, it addresses a lot of what has to happen in response to COVID-19 and the potential of bringing students back on campus and how to do that. But as was mentioned before, you know, a lot of the wellness pieces, I was really glad to see baked into this policy, to the sample policy, because we know that it's more than just pushing restart and we're going to pick back up with the academic standards, is that we need to do everything that we just talked about, and as a community and with our thoughts, with our students, knowing that they are experiencing this trauma and processing that as well. So that you'll see that baked into the policy as well. So this would be a policy that just guides us through this process, and I'll open it up now to the board for discussion and question.
Board members.
I just appreciate that we're always so on it with ensuring that we're staying up to date with these policies, and that especially during this time, it is really useful to have this on the record and to discuss this. So thank you.
Anybody else? Carolyn.
I'll just add that it was just a very detailed policy, so I really appreciate that. I mean, things that I wouldn't necessarily have thought of as related, but that obviously are. So I just think it was very well written and detailed, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, kudos to CSBA.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot here. So anybody else have anything to say?
I also appreciate that it's so thorough and detailed in that way. Not each, every county, every board throughout various counties, we're not all going to be relying on our health officers to create new guidance. We've got some guiding principles here, and obviously we'll continue to work closely with them to figure out some of the screening pieces as needed. But it's nice to just again have something really clear, concise, well laid out. So when it's time to make some decisions, if we adopt this policy, it's got a good clear path for us. So thank you.
Yeah, reading through this policy here, it's just when this one sentence, the school campuses reopen, staff shall provide a caring, nurturing educational environment for the students. And that's saying a lot in itself. I mean, we've already talked about, the pandemic and the fire and what the kids are going through now. And having our campuses, welcoming and providing a caring, nurturing educational environment for our students. I mean, there's so much going on in our world right now, and have them walk into a safe place is a big deal. And I you know, that one sentence I really love. That one sentence could be just a policy in itself. Okay, Phil. You're muted.
So this is a policy that I'm going to assume is a living document, and that as the science evolves on this, that this would probably get updated, right?
That's a really good point, Phil. That's true of all policies, but I think your point is really well taken. It never will there be a policy that continuous update model is more important for than this one. So yeah, we will continuously monitor CSBA's update, which, as you know, often reflect current legislative changes. And we'll also monitor it in relation to our own needs as a district.
Oh man, I hate that updated to anything else these days. Man. Okay. If there's no more, actually, I should ask for any public comment on this policy and this discussion.
Nothing on the text end of things.
Nothing on the email end of things.
All right, very good. Then we will move on to 6, and thank you, and to 6D. This is a discussion of learning continuity and attendance plan. And this goes to Jessica.
Thank you. So tonight we have the item from public hearing, the district's learning continuity and attendance plan. It's here and available for your first reading and discussion tonight. And, you know, as with most compliance documents of this type, you know, you can put in what has to be there, or you can really dig in deeply and think about your district and the systems you have in the place and the people that you serve and why you serve them. And this comprehensive plan was intended to be more than a compliance document. It was really intended to capture what we do on a daily basis to serve our students and our community. It is a lengthy plan. It's 32 pages, and you know, it begins with some familiar bits of information, you know, our general overview of our district, but really kind of builds in some of the component parts that we established in our multi-phase distance learning plan beginning last year. It talked about stakeholder engagement and all the ways in which we have to do that differently now when we can't have community forums when we're sitting with people. All of the new virtual platforms that we're using to try to connect with people and hear them and seek information and understand. We were able to build out some themes in all of those multiple platforms about what people liked and what they experienced and what they didn't like and what they hoped for next. And it was really a rich conversation and a productive process for us as we went through and looked at that stakeholder information. The document also asks us to refer to what in-person instructional offerings would look like. And at the time that this template was originally created, we thought we might have students with us at some point of the day, and we were creating plans around that. So we did address that. We addressed what it would look like in a safe way at one point when and if that does happen. And it will one day. We talked about the continuity of instruction through this plan and the high quality curriculum that would be required and how to assure equity through this different type of format and distance learning. We talked about the things that didn't work and the things that did work last year, the things that we could learn from. And we had some really good dialogue with all of our stakeholders about that. We talked about devices and connectivity through this plan. We talked about all of the ways in which we could develop ourselves to more deeply and more completely serve our students and our communities. What do we need to learn about and how do we need to learn it and when are we going to do it and how are we going to do it? We learned about the expectations that we had for ourselves and the expectations we would have for kids through this plan. There is so much. I think the intentionality to really look at this plan to attend to some underserved students and some unduplicated student groups was essential in building this plan. I'm really proud of how we were able to address that and talk about it. And then really aligning some resources through which we could create some actions to really do the things that we say that we want to do and the things that we know how to do. So I'm really happy to present this plan to you tonight. Again, not as a matter of compliance, but really as a matter of hoping to paint a picture of all of the things that our district does on the best interest of our students and our community. So any questions from our board?
Please jump in.
Jessica, I'll just say, as always, you've outdone yourself with being so thorough with this document that had a turnaround time of about a month. So I applaud all that you've done because I know how challenging it is. And so it is a very comprehensive learning continuity plan. And so I know there a lot of work went into consolidating this. There's one question I had that I apologize, I didn't get a chance to send earlier, which was just the contributing actions. I think it just might be how we view some of them as contributing to increased and improved services specifically for unduplicated students versus services for all students.
Mm-hmm.
So just things like professional development, but I understand if it's professional development targeted for certain populations of students. And so that was just my only question regarding the document.
And that's a great question. And it really does have to do with these specific groups of students to do some specific development with them as the target in mind. But I can add some clarifying language to really help identify that a little bit more clearly.
No need to add more language to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for this very detailed document. There's just so much helpful information in here. There was one passage that I was wondering if the language could be adjusted. Let me find the page. It was page 42 of the docket.
Was it, it was 42 or 40? Yes, 42. About and I'm going to make sure that I reference the notes. It was with regard to the SUESD exist to serve section. Yes. So, and I appreciate that. And I omitted that from my introductory comments. And I think that I was able to target some language that would be helpful. First, I think one of the questions was like kind of what these groups are. And they're the ones that are outlined and titled in the dashboard, the California dashboard. And I'll enumerate on that language a little bit, like how we got those titles. And then in this section where we have both, it is both of those groups, but not both of them together. And so I've made some clarifying language around that too. So thank you so much for pointing that out. We want to make sure we're extra clear. And I really, really, really hope that the language that I've recrafted in that area will satisfy, and I'll send that on over, and hopefully that'll go through your approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm sorry. I was hiding in the mute land for a minute. But thank you, Jessica. It is really comprehensive, and I didn't realize that this was all put together in a month. Time almost means nothing and everything all at once, if you all know what I mean. So thank you. It was incredibly detailed, yet also easy to understand. But in that vein, thinking of it in terms of an LCAP and, obviously different, but the accountability piece, I'm wondering about how it gets, once it's approved and adopted, how it gets published out to our community, and whether there's, I hate to ask for anything else, but whether there's any kind of executive summary or something that goes with it to make it a little more understandable for other folks in the community who don't have as much awareness of some of the educational lingo that we've all become really familiar with. If there's a possibility of like a one-page explanation document that's in some plain language. And that's it for me.
Thank you. And we know that, while when you create a comprehensive document, you try to include everything, but also make it manageable to the reader, which is difficult to do. And we will definitely post this plan just like we would post an LCAP for everyone to be able to see the whole document if they should choose. But we typically will write those kind of bite-sized summaries, and we'll attach that to this document so that if you don't want to read 32 pages, you don't have to.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any comments from the public?
Nothing on the text side.
I guess nothing from Linda. Okay.
Nothing on email.
Okay.
No.
That's a no.
Nothing.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Let's move on to 6F. This is a discussion regarding the board. Let's see, I'm sorry. 6E, discussion regarding the superintendent's evaluation process and goal setting.
So the board has established a very clear and routine evaluation process for the superintendent, which I'm very grateful for. Nothing like having clarity of the process to be able to, challenge myself and my continuous professional growth. And so, of course, the first part of an evaluation process is goal setting. And so I'm going to lead with that, are my goals. And so I set 5 this year, and of course, be open to the board's discussion and input. As I've said many times, the goal that has definitely written itself this year, and I'm very thankful for that, because I think any leader that's what you want. You want to know what the organization, what the constituents want to achieve, and this is what our district wants to achieve this year. We want a racial justice task force, and we want to have a self-examination of our current practices in our district's culture, and we want to know how to continuously improve. And as we've talked about in previous items tonight, that is on course. The second goal that I've written is regarding our student services team development and support. So when we talk about vulnerable students, of course, students with learning disabilities fit into that category. So therefore, there is no more important team in the district than our student services team. And what I want to do is highlight their importance and provide more direct support to their continuous development. Number 3 seemed like, although it's a general goal, it seemed like it would be remiss not to include something of this nature in my goals. And that is just to, certainly not something I do, it's something that I do in conjunction with everybody in our district. And that's leading through this pandemic and all the challenges, as many people, including Phil, so eloquently kind of laid out the many different challenges, COVID-19 ranking amongst the most intense challenges. The 4th goal that I've set has to do with the transition of our Opal Cliff School from a transitional kindergarten school to a home-based learning model, and in an alternative education setting. My original intention, after a lot of discussion with different groups, was to have that be a slow roll. And then March came along and changed everything in our world. And that's been a fast roll, if you will. And rather than starting with a small group of 4 or 5 students and building the program each year, we immediately started with 54 students. And, in a different kind of virtual learning opportunity, home-based. Of course, any of these goals I don't accomplish. I only help support teams to accomplish them, and never more so in this case. We have the school under Jessica's leadership serving as principal and all around administrative support. And then we just were so lucky to have two of our own teachers, Suzanne Denham and Lori Kearney, step up to want to be the founding teachers of this program. I'm really beyond hopeful. I'm confident that this is not only going to serve us in the capacity it's serving us now through the pandemic, but will serve us long term. And my colleague Craig Broadhurst often says when a new practice or a new opportunity at New Brighton is added, that it's a new jewel in the New Brighton crown. And I truly believe that this alternative education site is a new jewel in the Soquel School District crown. It's something that we needed, and I think it's something that we will be able to offer families that in the past have had to go elsewhere to find. And then finally, addressing dual immersion. This is right along those same lines. It's something that some of our community members, some of our parents have to go elsewhere to find in neighboring school districts, and that's not right. And so while I can't guarantee that we will start the new school year with a dual immersion program, what I can guarantee is we will thoroughly go through the process. The California Association of Bilingual Educators, CABE, have a very detailed and thorough process for working through community input and dialogue sessions in order to either get to the point where we say this is a program that we want to start and this is how we're going to do it, or this is not right for us for one reason or another, but we will have gone through a thorough process to determine that. And so those are my 5 goals this year, and I open it up to the board. If I can just say one last thing, although in hindsight, I did not call out ELD besides in the dual immersion context, I would say that ELD is always a focus for us in the district as we continue to try to better and better support our English learner population of about 10% of our student population. I do see continuous improvement in that area as part of equity, so goal 1, and to some degree part of goal 5 as well.
All right, Scott, thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? Okay.
All right. Sorry. Here I am. These are, yep, I appreciate these goals. We have traditionally, as a part of the evaluation process, held ourselves accountable by also measuring the leadership characteristics that were worked on by our community when we went through the hiring process. It feels like so many years ago. And so I just kind of wanted to remind us of that, if it's not particularly a stated goal as it was last year, in terms of continuing to demonstrate the leadership, the superintendent characteristics that were a part of our search process. It seems like they could certainly be woven in, for example, in the leadership during the pandemic item, or several of them. Just wanted to kind of remind us that that's always a part of the process. So thank you.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Thank you. All right, Scott, thank you. If there's no more questions or comments, anything from the public? Okay.
Yeah, nothing on text.
All right, yeah, there's been some updates here, the pandemic and other things there too. So thank you. Let's move on to 6F, and we're going to discuss Board Trustees Governance Handbook.
Thank you again, Ted. Yeah, thank you again, Ted. So part of our governance calendar every year is to annually review this governance handbook. I always like to commend the board and previous boards for establishing this handbook as a way to try to document the expected culture. This is the way we do business. And I think it's a very meaningful document that was here before I got here, and one I've really appreciated that the board commits some time to each year to review. And so this is what's in the board docket is the existing handbook. And so when I bring this back next board meeting, I will have updated the board president and vice president. So some of those kind of routine kind of things. I did want to bring to your attention a couple of suggestions that I received, thankfully. And that is on page 87 of your docket. And I'm just going to read this as is so I don't miss anything. Consider getting rid of the space before as the governance team fulfills responsibilities. So a formatting change that we can take care of. And in the last line of the second paragraph on that page, delete the A before message to the public. So again, some cleanup that we can do. Always, no matter how many passes we take of this, seems like we can always tighten it up. And then on page 88 of the docket, the wording of the unity of purpose section, it was requested that we kind of take a look at that and see if we might be able to make it clearer or less confusing. So if the board has any thoughts on that specifically now, of course I can take them. Otherwise, I will take a pass at that and present it in the second reading next board meeting. The other part that was suggested, that I am suggesting that we include, since this digital format has happened organically out of need, that we now have a system to do this, and that that system is documented very clearly on our board agendas now, and that someday we're going to move away from COVID-19, but it seems wise to file how we got to this point and the system that we use to file that away as part of our governance handbook, so that if the need ever arises again, there's a little bit of a playbook to refer to for future generations of our governance team. So with that, I will open it up to the board for discussion and question.
All right, gang, go ahead.
Okay, I was waiting to see if anyone else wanted to go first, but here I am
Go
again,
first.
of course. Scott, on the new Appendix E item, I'm wondering whether we want to consider having less specific language in terms of how we are live streaming and how people can comment in case we do decide to try to revamp that process. You know, we did hear some input from our SEIA president that perhaps there was some discussion around folks feeling like this was less of a, in terms of how people can comment and whether there's possibly any way to adjust that. So if we could make it clear in our appendix that, our meetings would be live streamed, that the public will have an opportunity to comment, and and the method of commenting would be listed on the agenda. I'm just wondering if there's a way we could give information, but also leave room to adjust as needed.
Of course, I can tidy that up a little bit to make it a bit more generic and flexible.
Anybody else? Phil?
So I have to ask, so is there how much more work is this going to be for staff to do this? Because I expect what'll happen is that we'll always have this.
The live stream?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of government entities broadcast their meetings, and so now we do, and we can, and so there might be an expectation that we continue. it may not be, if we have in-person meetings, then we can do that whole, what the work we do there. But I would expect that people are going to at least want to watch what we're doing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good point, Phil. And what I can do is bring that in and of itself to a future board meeting as an agenda item. Post-pandemic world, how do we want to take what we've learned about streaming and the resources that we have and move forward with that? I think that's a great discussion in and of itself.
Yeah, for one, I've always thought that would be a good idea to continue with this, even though when we're all in the boardroom together. I mean, there was talk years ago about having our meetings televised, and as far as going to Capitola and community TV and the whole bit, but now we have this to where anybody could at least listen or participate. And I think when we're all in a room together, I think it would tidy it up a little bit more than what it is now. So I really hope, and I want, when everything's over, we're all in a room together, that that live stream of some sort will continue.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear what the board is saying, and as I said, I think that is a worthy agenda item in and of itself. So that way we can discuss specifics and resources and strategies for doing that on a regular basis. Should the board desire that, absolutely.
Any other comments? If not, is there anything from the public?
Nothing on text.
Okay, Linda, any emails?
So I have about 5 activity items from the public that I'm unable to see. So I just made a copy of them, what I've received, and sent it to George. So hopefully he'll be able to figure out what's going on prior to the close of this meeting.
5 activity items?
5 items that I can't read as far as emails, but it just says activity and they're coded for some reason. So I'm not able to see them. I can forward the same email to you, Scott, if you'd like.
No, I'm sure George will be able to figure it out. I'm just wondering if Michelle or Jessica, if you have that public comment email up, or if you're seeing any of that.
It does say that 2 other accounts, but to read anything.
Can you repeat that, Linda? Nope. I think Linda froze.
I don't
I'm
have
sorry?
anything on emails here.
I,
Okay.
so Scott, I'm not showing any emails on the public comment page, on the public comment email address.
And I cannot see any either.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm sure that George Lopez will let us know if there is something we missed, but our 2 streams for that were the text stream and the public comment email stream, so.
Well, if he could find out before we adjourn, and then we could possibly insert those when we before we adjourn too.
Yeah, I was just on the phone. Sorry, I was on the phone with George. We were trying to figure out the link onto YouTube as to why some people were not being able to get in.
Okay.
Ted, I see Phil's hand is up.
Oh, Phil.
So if there's anything that we don't get in before we are done for the evening, can they be added as correspondence either to this meeting or the next meeting?
Absolutely, yes.
I'm sorry, I was on the phone with
I think they're
Michelle.
particular to an agenda item. So we'll look at possibly something on the agenda during the virtual meetings right now to insert anything at the end of the meeting. I know some districts are doing that, because of this here too. Comments on items that have been presented in our docket. So maybe I will look at another item on the agenda before we adjourn for something for like this.
Well, two things, Ted, thank you for that. And the explanation on the agenda does, allude to the fact that we will be mindful that this is new for all of us. And if we need to go back and if we get a comment, even if it's after an agenda item, we're going to be mindful of that and try to get everybody's comment in. And secondly, I see that our tech coordinator, George Lopez, would like to contribute at this point.
Hi,
George.
sorry, I was on the phone with Michelle when you guys were talking, so I didn't hear what I'm supposed to be looking at.
So Linda had indicated that there were, I forget how you worded it, Linda. That there were activity items?
Activity items on the public communication email. However, they're not showing up. So at the very bottom left-hand corner, I saw activity and I clicked on it and I can see that there were things that had come up throughout the course of this meeting, but there's nothing that I could read. So I emailed you, I made a copy of it and I just emailed it to you, what I saw.
Okay, I'll take a look at it right now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Thank you, George. Okay, with that, let's move on to the action items. 7A, let's consider nominating the California School Board Association, CSBA, Director at Large, Asian, Pacific Islander, and Hispanic.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Ted. So as you know, there is a detailed nomination process. Should the board desire to make a nomination, we also like to, when these come up, let you know what the current incumbents situation is. We have not heard back from Director at Large Hispanic Joaquin Rivera, and so I don't know whether he will be running for re-election. Director at Large Asian Pacific Islander Gino Kwok from Hacienda La Puente Unified School District did get back to us, and he is running for re-election, just so the board has all the information.
All right, with that, if there are not any questions, anybody have any questions or comments? If not, is there a nomination on the floor? Okay, with that, I assume that the action will, what do you call it, die? Or there's another word for it. You have to say that. Phil, what's the word for it?
I believe there's no action to be taken. There was no motion made.
Well, thank you. Okay, there is. Okay, so with 7A, there is no action taken, no motion. So with that, we'll move on to correspondence. Any correspondence out there? None. Okay. Any future agenda items that anybody is interested in coming forward?
Well, I think that one rose to the surface, and that is kind of as a byproduct of the governance handbook, just having a very specific item on post-COVID-19, how the board wishes to consider, or whether they wish to consider, and if yes, how they wish to consider streaming or making the video of the meeting public. So we will get that up as a separate item in the future.
And that item actually is going to be coming forward as an action item. It has first reading. It will be during the second read. We'll have a second reading.
So what I'm proposing, Ted, is that I bring the governance handbook as a second reading next time as its own item, and then start off with a discussion item on how we're going to maintain streaming the meetings, so that we can have a discussion item, build it, and then ultimately bring it as an action item down the road.
Okay, very good. And then before I adjourn, is there anything from the public that we were able to pull up?
No,
Can I comment on that?
I'm sorry, George, go ahead.
I just want to say what Linda was seeing was account activity, not emails. So she was seeing other people logged in like me, Jessica, and Michelle.
Okay, very good.
Keen eye though, Linda. Good job.
Good to go.
Thank goodness.
Before adjourn, I see your guitar is gone. George, you've been playing. Would you like to sing us a goodnight song?
Maybe
All
next
right,
time.
gang, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Yes.
And first, Amanda second. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Gordon. Thank you,
Thank-
team.
Thanks, guys. Thank
very
you,
much.
Linda.
Everyone. See you.
Gordon,
Stay
thank you.
safe.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
coming too.
Yes, thanks, George.
Anytime.
Really?
George.
Gordon and Gordon and George. Yeah.
Good night, everybody. Thanks a lot.
All right.